So over these first 3 Sundays in Lent, we've been talking about battling the beasts within us. If you've been here in week 1, you know we received this card. This is Michelangelo's painting of the torment of Saint Anthony. It's a pretty graphic way of depicting our temptations of the mind, of the passions, of the will. If you haven't seen it, I'll have it outside after Mass. It's a painting of Saint Anthony with a bunch of nasty-looking beasts scratching and tugging and beating up on him. We were challenged to meditate on this painting and to identify the beasts in our own life, even journaling about them, whatever is clawing at us and dragging us down. In week 2, we looked at what Father Mark termed the look, the paradoxically peaceful look that Michelangelo gives St. Anthony in this painting. St. Anthony is not ignoring the beasts. He's not pretending that they're not there, but he has this confident assurance that no matter how ugly the beasts are, and they are ugly, if you look at them, they're ugly. They can't touch him. And then last week in week 3, Father Mark got down to some basics and gave us some tips and tools to how to live a more virtuous life, practical pointers to keep in mind as we battle our own beasts. So today, now we're in week 4. As I see it, we're kind of done talking. We're done looking at the beasts and naming the beasts and thinking about the beasts and preparing to fight the beasts. It's time to act. But here's the reality, at least if you're like me. When we get into the nitty-gritty of our own beasts, our own faults and failings and sin and the bad stuff in our lives, it's very easy to get stuck. We can be paralyzed by our own stuff. Our dark side can be too big, too much, too stiff of the competition. And we simply, as Father Mark says, we kind of get comfortable wallowing in our own sin. So 3 things today. First, what's my story? Second, lean into the light. And third, the best way out. First, what's my story? So last year for Father's Day, my kids got me a subscription to something called Storyworth. Maybe some of you have heard of it. It's actually an online service that sends me one question to answer each week. I'm invited to write a short little paragraph or essay answering that question. The questions are wide-ranging. They go from what is one of your fondest childhood memories to what do you consider one of your greatest achievements. So I'm supposed to send these essays when I get done with this year of essays or paragraphs into Storyworth. And then at the end of the year, they take, I guess, a few photos the kids send, and they create a bound book of these essays. And the hope is that I'll complete these essays and give the book as a gift to my children. And perhaps when they're not bored, they will read them, read a little insight into the stories of their father's life. Or maybe they'll give them to their children, and they'll say, here, look at what Grandpa was all about. So I'm just beginning to get into this Storyworth, these questions. But what I'm discovering is my story is not just one page, one essay or paragraph. My story, like all of yours, is a journey. It's a series of stories. It's ups and downs, it's successes and failures, it's virtues and vices. The journey of our lives, as Father Mark has said, is not always up and to the right. There are always plenty of left turns. But so often we define ourselves by our left turns, by our darkest moments. As often as I remind myself that I'm a beloved child of God who loves me more than I can even imagine, I remain haunted by my failures. I start believing the lie that I can't change those, that I'm stuck in this dark place of no hope, no way out. I can't get beyond them. And the lies of the evil one just start to pile up. Listen to some of these. See if they resonate with you. My sin makes me no good. I keep falling into the same sin over and over. I sin too much. I'm haunted by my past sins. There is no way God can fix me. So we end up saying, like St. Peter said to Jesus in the boat, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." And we can conclude that all is lost and there's just no way I can take on these beasts. That's my story. But today's good news, the good news in today's gospel, is that we don't do it by ourselves. The mistakes, the failings, the stumblings to sin do not define us, nor do they defeat us. They are just one page of our story. Which brings me to the second point. Lean into the light. So we all have this baggage, these left turns, these beasts in our life. What do we do with them? Today's gospel comes from chapter 3 of St. John's Gospel, and it begins with a dialogue between Jesus and Nicodemus. Nicodemus was a Pharisee who comes to Jesus, and he wants to find out a little bit about Jesus. What's Jesus' story? And Jesus' message to Nicodemus is, shed your darkness and lean into the light. Have you ever noticed that many of our beasts are associated with night? They're associated with darkness. From our earliest years, even as children, we know that darkness is associated with scary bedrooms and scary closets and unexplained noises. And even as our kids get older, I used to tell my kids, I still tell my kids, don't be out too late. Nothing good happens after 1 a.m. And this theme of darkness permeates the entire Gospels, especially St. John's Gospel. On Holy Thursday, Jesus is betrayed by Judas and abandoned by his disciples at night. On Good Friday, at midday, when Jesus is crucified, darkness covers the whole land. And even on Holy Saturday, our Vigil Mass, when we begin our vigil here in this church, we begin this liturgy in total darkness. This church is absolutely dark, pitch black. All of these images are not accidents. They all represent the wild beasts in our life, scratching and tugging and pulling at us. And what is the antidote for this darkness? Light, of course. Light provides us the ability to see clearly. Light helps us overcome our fears. Light heals people. It can help people who suffer from seasonal affective disorder, SAD, SAD, or people who suffer, if you've had relatives who suffer from sundown syndrome, who hallucinate at night. Light helps them. It heals them. Light reassures us that it will be okay, that the beasts are gone, that we have nothing to be afraid of. It's why the very first gift the church gives to someone receiving the sacrament of baptism isn't a rosary or a holy card. It's a candle, a baptismal candle. We give them this candle to reassure them that, as the gospel says today, whoever lives the truth comes to Jesus, who is the light. In today's gospel, Jesus says, "For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him." We see this passage so frequently. It's quoted everywhere, from billboards everywhere. It's quoted so frequently because it holds the key to battling our beasts. We don't battle the beasts alone. We can't battle the beasts alone. We're not strong enough. The only way we can battle and conquer them, the beasts within, is with the help that comes from a God who loves us so deeply, so intimately, so passionately, that he would do absolutely anything for us, even give up his son to die for us. He doesn't come to condemn. He comes to save. So that brings us to the final point, the best way out. So let's say we're all in on this. Let's say that we all confidently, we say that the beasts do not own us, they don't define us. Our stories are much more than the times that the beasts have gotten the best of us. Let's say we're all in on that. We know that Jesus will help us, that he calls us to be a people who bask in the light of his warm embrace. So what's next? What's our next move? Well, today, now, during Lent especially, the best way out is to act. Jesus does not force himself on us. We are not robots. We are invited to take a step, to turn toward him, but it's our move. And in our faith tradition, the most profound and direct way of taking that step to seek the grace is to seek the grace of a sacrament which reconciles us back to God. The sacrament of confession exposes and destroys those lies that the evil one plants in us. I'm no good. I sin too much. I can't get beyond it. I'm haunted by my shame. All of these lies are so much garbage. Father Mark has told me several times in talking, and sometimes he might be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I think he's serious. He sees his job as a priest in that confessional as a garbage collector. He's just picking up trash. He's getting rid of the trash in people's lives. That's not to demean what a priest does in the confessional, the miracle of that reconciliation. There are many wonderful things that happen there, but it is such a cool description of what happens in the sacrament of reconciliation. You leave that confessional without the garbage, with the grace of a sacrament which says, where God says, I love you, I love your story, enjoy the light of my grace. Some people say, well, can't I just confess my sins to God directly? And certainly God is all powerful. He can do whatever he wants anytime he wants. But we've just spent these last Sundays in Lent recognizing the mistake it is when we think that we can defeat these beasts on our own. For the same reason, why would we think it's a good idea to entertain the battle of confessing our sins and summoning up the strength to live a life of virtue on our own, without the grace of a sacrament which reconciles us to God? Here at Notre Dame, we've made going to confession as easy as possible. Every Wednesday, Father Mark is in that confessional from 6 o'clock on. Every Saturday afternoon from 4 o'clock. This Wednesday, March 13, not only will Father Mark be here to have confessions from 6 to 9, we'll have 3 other priests here, so you can go to any priest you want. Father Mark even has some beautiful Gregorian chant music playing throughout the church during confessions, so you can be assured that no one will hear your confession, no matter how loud you speak. Many years ago, our beloved priest, Father Venard, would hear confessions, but he was a little hard of hearing, and so he would encourage you to speak up in your confessions. So today, let's lean into the light. Jesus says, whoever lives the truth comes to the light. In these final weeks of Lent, let's show the beasts who's boss. It's our move.